There's a study that's cited by critics of the trans rights movement, which is often misinterpreted. The paper is called Long-Term Follow-Up of Transsexual Persons Undergoing Sex Reassignment Surgery Cohort Study in Sweden by Dhejna et al. Trans rights critics often point to this study as evidence that sex reassignment surgery either does no good for trans people or is actually harmful to trans people. This paper concludes that persons with transsexualism after sex reassignment have considerably higher risks for mortality, suicidal behavior, and psychiatric morbidity than the general population. It does not follow from this that transitioning is not beneficial, and it certainly doesn't follow that transitioning is harmful. If you wanted to investigate whether cancer patients who get chemotherapy are better off than cancer patients who don't, how would you test that? Well, obviously you would compare the mortality rate of cancer patients who receive chemotherapy to that of cancer patients who don't. That's not analogous to what the Dhejna study does. It doesn't compare people with gender dysphoria who transition to people with dysphoria who don't. It compares those who transition to the general population. This is not an effective way of assessing the therapeutic efficacy of transitioning. If you compare the mortality rate of chemotherapy patients to the mortality rate of the general population, you would see that chemo patients have a higher mortality rate. Would that show that chemotherapy doesn't help cancer patients? Obviously not. This study gives absolutely no evidence for the claim that people who have sex reassignment surgery are worse off than people with gender dysphoria who don't. It doesn't even investigate the question. Not only does this study not show evidence that sex reassignment surgery is not beneficial, it doesn't even claim that it isn't beneficial. It claims that the surgery does in fact relieve dysphoria. Now there is a study that does make the proper comparison. According to the 2012 Trans Mental Health and Emotional Well-Being Study, suicidal ideation and actual attempts reduced after transition, with 63% thinking about or attempting suicide more before they transitioned, and only 3% thinking about or attempting suicide more post-transition.